Thank you to Infinity Dreams for providing a review key for Groov VR. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is MadBrax and today we have a review of Groov VR. Groov VR is a air drumming rhythm game that does sort of the same thing as a app like Paradiddle VR, except it's more focused on the game aspect of Paradiddle instead of the simulated drum kit. So how well does Groov VR achieve that goal? Does it fall flat on its face, or does it rise to the top and become a drumming legend? Let's find out on our review of Groov VR air drumming. Let's start out with performance. Performance is extremely important in VR games, and thankfully, Groov VR runs silky smooth no matter what's going on screen at the time. And because of that, you're not going to have any motion sickness issues related to low performance. But you're going to see just why it's so silky smooth in a second here. Performance gets a nice 5 out of 5. I have no issues with it whatsoever. Next up, we have visuals and presentation. And I have to say, even for a Quest 2 game, Groov VR is extremely underwhelming presentation-wise. You have seen other games on the Quest 2 look a lot better than this. Even rhythm games actually. Look at Beat Saber, the presentation in that game is phenomenal. So to see the low poly environments of Groov VR and the jagged edges with the resolution, and it seems like lack of anti-aliasing entirely, it's really underwhelming and extremely disappointing to see just how average and poor this game looks. And I have no doubt in my mind with just how simple the gameplay elements of this game are, that they could have done more with the visuals if they had spent more time with it. It seems like they rushed as much as they could after formulating the gameplay and just threw that there for visual sake. It's really underwhelming and honestly just looks like a cheap mobile game. And I get that $15 isn't that much for a VR game. It's rare to see games on the Quest Store even priced at that. But look at it the way I am. If you're buying a game on App Lab, you're already kind of iffy on whether or not you want to spend any money at this game at all, because it's going to be experimental and it did not make it through the full certification process. So you're not entirely sure what the quality of the game is going to be. So justifying the $15 price tag is already kind of hard. And when you see that the game looks really mediocre, it's going to leave a really sour taste in your mouth about the game as a whole. And that does not help the fact when there is not much to write home about this game at all. It's all fairly average, and I'll get into that in the other sections of the review. And I just want to clarify that there's nothing wrong with games on App Lab. There's a lot of fantastic games on App Lab that just wouldn't be on the Quest otherwise. So don't take what I've said earlier as my opinion on App Lab games as a whole. It's just this one is going to leave a bad impression for future ones if it's the first one a user buys. And as for the UI, there's nothing to talk about either. It's really mediocre. Nothing makes you want to click into a song and play it. It's just really bland and unimpressive. With that said, visuals disappointingly get a 2 out of 5 from me. There's nothing here that makes me want to come back and look around at the game. It's not atrocious, but just nothing impressive and nothing I like about them. And moving on to gameplay, I can look over the visuals in a rhythm game. They're not the most important thing. As long as you can read a chart and as long as you can see what's going on and play it, you're fine. But for a rhythm game, the gameplay needs to be fun for me to justify purchasing it at all. And sadly, Groov VR just doesn't nail it. Throughout my entire playtime with Groov VR, I felt something was off about the gameplay. I didn't know what it was, but I think I formulated it now. There is no late or early hits in Groov VR. You feel like you have to hit it right on the dot if you're gonna hit it. And if you don't, the drum kits just completely cut out. They're not muffled or anything, they're gone. So when that happens, it's extremely challenging to get back into your flow unless you already have played the song how many times and you know what you're doing wrong. There's no aid to getting back on track. And because there's no score displays right in front of you on whether or not you're doing good, if you want to see if you're doing good, you have to look away from the drum kit to see your score. That is not good. If you have to do that, you're completely interrupting the flow of your gameplay. Why? Alright, enough throwing shade at the strange gameplay and choices made here. Let's get to something actually good here. If you want to customize the locations of your drum kit and move them around, Groov VR lets you, and it's actually really nice. I don't see any problems with that system, but everything that involves using the drums doesn't feel great. It feels weird. And please take this from someone who actually likes a game like Paradiddle VR and actually has an electric drum kit. I know how drums feel, and I know how different VR drums that are done well feel. It's just not great here. The expectations I had that it was gonna feel nice to play these are just completely shattered. I don't have anything good to say about playing the drums in this game. It's not good. And I almost forgot this part in the visuals section. I don't understand. I get that this game has like 30 songs in it, and a couple of them are a bit long. But this game, even with its low quality visuals, it clocks in at like 640 megabytes. I don't get that. A game like Unplugged and Beat Saber, which look a lot better than this game, and still have about the same amount of songs with around the same quality of compression, they look a lot better and clock in at around the same size or even lower. I don't know why this game takes up so much storage, other than maybe it's super uncompressed or something. I don't know. It's just not something I'd take up the space on my Quest for. With that said, I do want to give credit where credit's due. I had a little bit of fun with this occasionally as I was playing it. It was fun to smack some drums, but I can do that in other games that do it a lot better. There is nothing here that makes me want to spend the $15 that this game costs over something like Paradiddle, which also costs around the same amount. Which, keep in mind, that is for the full version. The demo version of Paradiddle, which does support custom songs, is actually free on the Quest. You can play it without paying for anything. And also keep in mind that this game, from what I've seen, doesn't support custom songs, and the community is so small that even if it does, it's not a notable feature because there's so little amount of people playing it that there's no custom songs to load on it, even if there was support. So, Groov VR's gameplay is going to get a 1 out of 5 from me. It's a good concept, don't get me wrong, it's a great concept. Virtual reality drumming just for the concept of a rhythm game and not to actually simulate it. That's great. But when Paradiddle does this better, and there's other games on the Quest that do it better, I can't justify spending $15 on this practically lesser version of those games. Alright, listen, I'm gonna cut it some slack on this section in terms of the track list, but now we're moving on to audio. So, the track list here for an indie game is alright. There's nothing mainstream in here to really get a consumer to say, yeah, I want to buy this game, but it's alright for what the game is. You play drums to the songs and they feel good to drum too, but there's nothing mainstream, so keep that in mind if you do actually want to go out and buy this title. But how about the compression? I can't excuse really poorly compressed songs in a title that you have to pay for. That would be inexcusable for me. And thankfully, the songs here are like not compressed at all. They feel great, and I'm assuming that's probably why the game's download size is so big. So, with that out of the way, audio, it's an important part of rhythm games. There's just not much to say about the audio here other than it sounds good. There's not really any artist that you're gonna know unless you're part of the niche who like the very specific artists that are included in this game. So audio's just gonna get a 4 out of 5 because the audio sounds clear, it sounds great even, but the artists here are nothing I know, and I think a lot of people on the Quest who buy this game are going to know. So with all of my scores given, it is time to give the Groov VR overall score. I think Groov VR is a really disappointing rhythm game. I expected to have a lot of fun with this game because you really can't do drums in VR any worse than they're already gonna feel. But in that aspect, I was sorely mistaken. I didn't realize just how poor the drumming would feel here, and take that from someone who already likes paradiddles drumming. It feels good in that game how they ended up doing it. So with that out of the way, my overall score for Groov VR is going to be a 2 out of 5. I don't recommend buying the game unless you already have paradiddle and you really want more virtual reality drumming that kind of feels like that, but it's just not as well done here. There's other games that do it better, and I really hope the developers take my feedback to heart on this, because I think there could have been something great with this title. It just doesn't hit that spot, and it doesn't nail it. Anyway, with that all said, thank you so much for watching this video. If you have made it this far, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel with notifications on for future VR game reviews and other awesome VR content. I strive to create the best content I possibly can over here, and that really helps me out with getting new games, getting better equipment, editing these videos, and just really motivating me to keep going with the channel. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Have a great night. MadBrax out.